Well, hello there. Yes, I just put out a video. Sorry, not trying to be annoying, but I do need to catch up on my October update, which is now going to be October, November. So, welcome back, guys. It's Perry here, and I appreciate you stopping by the channel to take a peek at what we're working on over here with the 112-gallon innovative marine 3x3 Lagoon, which is an Acro dominant lagoon. It's the kind of corals I've been keeping for basically the entire time I've been an aquarist, and that dates back to 2005-6 time frame. So going way back, and still doing it, and still enjoying it. And what you're seeing here is years worth of finally trying to get something that I could really satisfy all of my acropora cravings with. So having the prop tank and a large sump in a separate room really gives me a lot more freedom, and it really helps for building a collection. And I just couldn't be any happier than where I'm at right now in the reef game. So this has been a long time. My only advice that I could ever give on reef keeping is just stay open-minded, be willing to hear other concepts, other ideas, because at the end of the day, if we are working on one common approach, which is success for these animals, then we can really make an impact, man, and it can be super cool. And so I've just enjoyed this aspect of reefing for so long. It's what compels me to want to share my different acros in the system with you. Again, it's all acropora related. So I know the audience is kind of dedicated to the acro nerd level, but you know, if that's what you enjoy, it's what I enjoy, and hopefully this is, I guess this is rather how we found each other. So thanks again. Overly grateful for you being a part of this journey. All right, so let's dive in. So there have been some changes that have been made on the reef due to temperature issues. I may have mentioned in a previous video, but let me reiterate as far as changes that have occurred since back in September. Definitely have taken out the T5 6 bulb ATI T5 unit off this display and replaced it with a V2 32 Pro from Reef Breeders, and it was just an even swap out. Now there was really no skipping, no nothing. It was just like a really nice transition, and I didn't see color loss. If anything, I'm starting to see color improvements. I did see temperature improvements both in the home and in the water, so that was pleasing. Other than that, that particular change was just smooth. So basically that led me to put a cheap black box over the prop tank. I scrapped the whole idea of using T5s. I was going to use it on the prop tank, but I decided that I would use a black box because I found an old 4 bulb Geisman retro or hybrid unit, and I put that in the center of that, and that's out on the prop tank, and the prop tank is actually humming along just as well. Probably not quite as colorful as the display, but everything that's in there, including almost all my millies except really one, are doing fantastic. So I feel every bit of confidence moving corals in and out of these two systems with one another. So the majority of the lighting is now LED with T5s for supplemental lighting on both systems. So the majority of the light is coming from the LEDs. Okay, so moving along. Next, I wanted to give a shout out to Frag Garage for Beyond the Reef. Been listening to those episodes and getting a lot of very useful information from some extremely talented reef keepers, you know, so specifically acropora reef keepers. And because of one of the interviews he had, I've been trying to like rack in my brain forever, like where these nitrates in my system are coming from. And while it's not detrimental to the reef, over time, my smoothie collection will suffer, and I know that because they're not very tolerant of high nutrients. They particularly like a more of a lower nutrient level, at least based on my experience in my system. So that being said, at 25 ppm NO3 and 0.18 phosphate, I feel it's a little high. I'd like to shave those numbers down a little bit, maybe like 5 to 10 ppm on nitrates, and let's say on phosphates, maybe in that 0.05 to 0.1 range. That's kind of the zen spot for me and my style of reefing. So as you can see, I'm clearly above that, but again, not so detrimental yet. There are a few pissy corals, obviously, in the tank. There always is. But all in all, I have no complaints, and we're just moving along. So listening to those episodes, it compelled me to try, based on the Leonardo episode. It was shortly after that I said, what the hell do I have to lose? I'm fighting this nitrate game. Let me go ahead and pull all the rock and biomedia. So I had pulled the biomedia already before that episode. Just, I don't know why, because when I added it, I felt like maybe that's why they started going up. And then so I started slowly removing it, and I'm like, I've got like 80 pounds of rock in the sump here, and after that episode of listening to what he had to say, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take all the rock out. So I did, and now I'm limited to around 50 pounds of rock in around 200 total gallons of water. That's right, yeah, 50 pounds of rock maybe in 200 gallons of total water. So as you can see, that's clearly not very much. So have I seen any issues? No. It's been shortly after that video came out that I decided to try that. And so it's been at least 3 or 4 weeks, I guess. And I didn't see dinos, cyano, nothing occur. I've maintained my same regimen, which I'll blast through that pretty quickly. But on Wednesday, Thursdays, rebiotic at normal dose. And then on Sundays, I dose a do-it-yourself calcium carbonate snow with the bactotherapy. And in between, I dose a carbon source of NP Pro from Aquaforest at 8 drops a day on the system, and that keeps my nitrates and phosphates kind of in check until the water changes that I'm ultimately doing will lower over time. So I'm dosing those. Sponge Power from Zeovit, I continue to dose. Red Sea program, but a very light dose on those trace minerals. Water change, I'm using the Aquaforest Reef salt, and I've been leaning more on water changes than so much on additives. So my trace dosing, if I were to do the Red Sea program to recommendation, I'd be using about 8 to 10 times more than what I'm actually using. So I'm using a very, very light dose of the big 3 of those, the bioelements, the potassium and the iodine, halogen, as well as the iron at a half of that dose. So yeah, just very, very little that's going into the system because I'm leaning more on the water changes. Again, having it there to me is the most important thing, and I believe that's the same thing with NO3 and PO4. Having it there is more important than necessarily what the number is, because I haven't really seen a whole lot of shift. Even though my nitrates blasted up to 40, I didn't really see a color down as a result, and I was just like sitting there like scratching my head. I don't understand this. It's like breaking all laws that I learned in terms of reef keeping. And so just understanding, being willing to accept that, higher nutrient levels these days are not a bad thing at all. And so I'm not freaking out. I'm just taking my sweet time and doing water changes, a little bit of carbon dosing, continue my bacteria dosing. The reef continues to look cleaner. The corals continue to grow and stand out, and I have really no complaints. I'm really happy of where things are going. So yeah, I guess we can just like wrap it up and get in a little bit closer on some of these corals, and you can just see them stacked, and you can see my smoothies are my little babies, and I've got so many ones that I'm working on that I haven't added anything in quite a while because I just feel like I've got my hands full on what I have. So let's just make sure we're doing well with these. Some of them are fraggable, and I'm trying to eventually work towards sharing this collection, by selling frags. But this piece right here is the Aries Avalanche, and that piece is really just like a very standout piece in the tank right now. My tenuouses, everything really is kind of glowing pretty well. And then, you know, we kind of come around the tank, and this is my view that I prefer, because that lighter backdrop just really shows, you know, the stacking and the design of the Bommy, you know. And so I've had some comments recently about, you know, what is the secret? There isn't. I'm just I'm sticking to a routine, and that's part of the secret. Staying with the routine, not freaking out, not knee jerking over a test. I take that information, I use it, certainly, but I'm not freaking out. All right, look at that Miyagi, gorgeous. Look at this piece, Aquamarine Jewel, Greg Hiller's Aquamarine Jewel. And you guys probably don't really remember that coral out there, but I do. And I'm just so happy to have that piece. And so, yeah, so we pan in, and, you know, it's like, okay, so what are you doing? What's the secret? There isn't a secret, guys. We just, I choose a good food to feed the fish. I use frozen only, have forever. I don't use any dry food. I don't use pellets, I don't use flake. I just never have. I feed all these fish once a day with Larry's Reef and PE mysis and a heavy load. And they're fat. You can see, I mean, my fish are very fat, very healthy. And yeah, so we're building a reef here, and, you know, that's the idea. And by not having all these spaces for rock to grab a hold of all these things and create nutrient time bombs, instead it's just blowing away in the flow and eventually making its way to the overflow box, to the sump, and then the skimmers in there are doing their work. I said skimmers. Yep, 2 of them right now. Again, trying to lower those nitrates, man. All right, that's it for the update. Sorry, it's been really long-winded, but needed to cram a lot, basically 2 months worth of info in that one. So, hey, thanks for following along.